Yes.
There you go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Town Council's Planning and Environment Committee. A special welcome to members of the public. First item on the agenda is to I should mention first of all that if the fire alarm goes off, it's not a drill and we should make our way to the exterior, either to the entrance that we came in by or by the fire doors at the far end of the hall there. First item on the agenda is to receive apologies for absence. I'll apologise to Councillor Harrison, whose name was omitted from the documentation for the this meeting. Item number 2 on the agenda, to note declarations of interest and requests for dispensation to discuss and vote on a matter in which a member or co-opted member has a disclosable pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest. Do any members of the planning committee have
Non-chair.
not to say anything there? Item 3 on the agenda is the open forum, in which comment and questions concerning items on the agenda may be put to the council by the public during this period. The public forum is restricted to 15 minutes unless the chair allows otherwise. Do any members of the public want to raise any issues under the open forum?
Not read to agenda before, but we've got some planning issues at Merton Road, which Susan and Ashley are aware of.
Okay, that relates to an item on the agenda.
I've not had a chance to read the whole agenda.
No, it doesn't relate to
Not the planning
agenda. No, it's something that the residents have brought up with me.
Right, so do we discuss this now? Do you want to make some comments now?
74 Merton Road started building an extension of that planning commission. It did apply initially, but what they built was different to what they were building. Initially, this is my mother, so that lives at 72. We initially let them on to build, but as soon as we saw space that there were some windows on the boundary, we basically said you can't come in, and you've not got planning permission. I then rang the council, emailed the council, while they'd still not got planning permission, and got no response whatsoever. We subsequently got granted planning permission, and it did say non-material change on the planning application, but it's made out of completely different material. It was originally meant to be bricks. It's like polystyrene blocks, big blocks. It's got 2 windows in it. They've altered all the roof. So to us, it's not a non-material change. I then had to raise a complaint with the council. I've now got a complaint number, and they basically said they'll come back to us by the 3rd of October. But we since received a threatening letter from 74 saying they want to gain entry, they're going to get the police, and they want to gain entry on the 17th of September. Hence why I'm here.
So gain entry to what?
To our premises to render their property.
Can I make a comment on this,
sure.
please? I have to say this, I back up the residents' complaint. The building work has changed quite drastically from what was originally in the plans. It was originally brickwork. It's now I don't know, I've never seen it. It looks like boarding on the outside. I've never seen it done before. And there are some windows that have appeared that haven't. Now, I did have a quick chat with Ashley beforehand. Apparently, Cheshire East have been to site and they're happy. I don't know when they went to site, but I would be very happy if the town council would put in a letter of support for the residents. given the threatening letter that's been sent by next door. Now, I did take the opportunity to get in touch with somebody who knew, on the recommendation of Alan Murdoch, somebody who knew about party walls, because that was the act that they quoted to threaten that they were going to come in and basically just force entry and do whatever they needed to the building. And I was informed, under no circumstances are they allowed to, under any act, to go and access somebody else's property. Only when there's certain things that are, joint things like drains and stuff like that. But for a build, you cannot just tell your neighbour, I'm coming on site, end on. And I think that Jane and her family feel quite threatened by what's happened. And I must admit, the tone of the letter was quite threatening. So I'd be very happy if the town council would support her letters of complaint and ask that somebody from planning come down. That's all we can do. It's out of our hands. It's planning that have to deal with it. But also I'm concerned about the particular day they've mentioned in this letter. I was hoping that the PCSO would be here tonight. He isn't, but we're going to raise it and send an email tomorrow to the sergeant.
May I ask what the location of your address is?
72 Milton Road for Mr. and Mrs. Hargreaves. I'm also on the deed as well, so Jane Edwards. And the next door in question is number 74.
So what's the best way of handling this? Are you willing to make a copy of this threatening letter available to
Susan's got a copy of it. I've got a copy on my phone with me. I've actually got a hard letter copy if you want to see it.
I don't think that will be necessary at the moment.
I didn't think that would be necessary.
But what we should do, I think, is to arrange for the planning committee to get together with the town clerk to draft a letter as Councillor Moore has suggested, and we write to planning enforcement about this matter.
I can give you the complaint numbers as well at the end of the meeting if you want.
Yes, please, if you would do that.
So yeah, no, it's really appreciated, thank you. The other thing is that dug through roots of the tree that we can't establish who owns the property, the land. That's what we're since you saw it. And it blocked the drains with concrete in the road. And I've pointed both of those out to the council in my reply, because initially I didn't get a response and we put that in there.
Okay.
But I've been quite thorough.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you're having these problems. I don't know whether our proposed letter would have much effect, but at least we'll try it for you.
No, it's really appreciated. The initial planning application was a bit raw and everything. We were fine with. We did put a few comments on the initial portal on the website, and we basically said we were happy with it as long as it wasn't over the boundary. We think the gutters are over the boundary and the windows also open into our boundary. They are obscure windows, but when they're open, the head height will be able to see into a bathroom, a study. They're not the quietest of neighbours, so we do, when they've been open, we've heard the radio and stuff. It does work at strange hours, so we're just really concerned. The other thing is, if I need to, I can't put a downstairs extension on the side of our house because I'll be building up to windows that are open.
Thank you.
Okay, so all of that. I've got copies of the objections.
So if you'll leave that with us, we'll draft an appropriate letter. I do want to warn you that we've had examples of, how shall I put it, constructions elsewhere in the parish, which seem to have offended the planning laws, even including building on a public footpath.
Okay.
And we've contacted the planning enforcement officers at Cheshire about it, and as far as I know at the moment, very little has been done to put the situation right. So please be warned about that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we can't try though, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Your help is really, really, really appreciated.
And I would suggest that you contact Esther they are on here.
Oh, no, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
have you at home?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Send her all the documentation. I'm sure she
Send
should
me
be able to help.
so you know everything you can get right there in the building.
I'll send it tomorrow.
Yeah, well, he's anyway.
Yeah.
And also,
It's a quick word.
So,
Right. My understanding is that, as she was saying, if it's not a party war, you can't just come on your land. There's no right at all. If it was a party war, which they're claiming it is, but I don't think it is it? If it was a party war, even then you have to get a court order. You can't just bowl up. If you're refused by the neighbour, the only way on is a court order. So they're going to break the law, aren't they? If they come on your land, they're going to break the law.
Well, what we've said in the letter, we've been reading the act. So me and my husband thought it was a party war. But what we've quoted is section 8.1 and 8.2. 8.2 basically says that they can break in and enter with police present, but what we've not noted is that's for vacant property, and obviously it's not vacant. So I've written a response, I've got copies to show you, but I've kept it very short. I basically just said we refuse entry. I don't think your letter's legally compliant in my opinion. It's threatening, and I've got no complaint to the council, so until we get the
You wonder, is a complaint to the police appropriate here?
Well,
So it's threatening to enter your premises, enter your property.
Start that process, and then we decided we're going to speak together this evening. So they have done some other behaviour, but we might hear about that later when one of our neighbours potentially turns up.
Time is moving on, and I'm afraid we'll have
Yeah, it's fine. Thank you.
to draw this to a conclusion now, but we will try and act on your behalf.
Excuse. Do you have the application number for the original?
I can get you. I'll sit here and I'll write them all down.
Okay, just so I can have a look. I'm not a fan with it, so I want
So
to get
they put one. I'll be very quick. They put one in. They decided they didn't want to do it, which was the brick wall one. We then put another one in. They pulled that one, and then they put one in after I said you're doing this without.
Okay.
I'll get them forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to raise an issue on behalf of a West Ward resident who can't be here tonight, they're on holiday. I received a communication from them expressing the view that the Garden Village project might fail to go ahead. A, because Cheshire East Council had insufficient money, and B, because planning permission had lapsed. I'd like to take this opportunity to dispel both these ideas. At a recent meeting with Cheshire East officers, this town council was assured that Cheshire East Council had sufficient money from government grants to proceed with the development of the Garden Village. The hybrid planning application for the Garden Village was submitted in 2019. However, the application was not finally approved until the 29th of September 2023. That hybrid planning application is therefore very much still alive. On top of that, the Cheshire East Planning website has recently posted a discharge of conditions notice 24/2790D, which relates to the control of construction traffic for the Garden Village. Such traffic will enter the Garden Village site via Hormoss Lane and Dairy House Lane, in other words, from the direction of Cheadle Field. Constructors' compounds will be sited on land parcels 2 and 3, which are located on the northern edge of the Garden Village site, adjacent to the A555. That's all I want to say on that communication from West Ward resident. I'd like to call now on another resident of the West Ward, Ian, who will say something about the progress with regard to access for all at the station.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Small. Basically, most people are aware that we in Friends of Campbell Station have been taking on the mantle of prime irritant to Network Rail, who back in 2019 were awarded the Department for Transport grant for putting lifts into Handforth Station. And the order of magnitude of the grant around that time was £2 to £2.5 million. So it's a substantial project for sure. And it had to be lifts because the way that building has taken place around the station in relatively recent years has precluded the land being available to put the much more simple and satisfactory ramps in place. So that's where we were in 2019. Everything was full steam ahead, money in place, the lifts could go ahead. Since then, absolutely no progress has happened in the 5+ years running up to now. And we've been constantly pushing Network Rail to come clean with us with why are things going so slow as to be stopped. And the only thing that they ever came up with really was because there are unknown electrical cable, high tension electrical cables running along the platforms, and until that's all been sorted out and the danger completely gone, they can't start doing any work on it. Now, our view always was, well, that's not a very can-do attitude. That surely you can work around that issue and put some plans in place for what you will do once those cables are. But it was never implemented. We've been pushing. Finally, in this last month, we've embarrassed them, I would say, into agreeing to have a meeting with us, which is going to be an online Teams meeting. The person we think is the project director for the Access for All projects in the country, or at least in this region, is going to be leading the meeting. It's going to take place tomorrow. He's going to bring in the project manager for the Handforth job, who is apparently about the 3rd or 4th project manager that's been appointed for the Handforth job. The others have come and gone, nothing happened. So we think by the end of tomorrow, we will have a much better idea as to what the state of play is currently within Network Rail. We know now that something has started to happen. We'll find out what that something is. And then also we will come away with a clearer idea of what the schedule for the various stages of conceptual design finalization, detailed design, construction and commissioning. We'll get an idea of what the current plans for all those are. So we'll be in a much better state to be confident to the residents of Handforth about what's happening.
Thank you very much, Ian. I'm not going to entertain discussion on the points that Ian's made because we're running short of time. So I want to move on to agenda item 4, which is to approve and sign the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting of the 16th of July. Do any members of the Planning Committee have any comments on those minutes?
No.
So may I suggest then that those minutes be approved, and can that be done by the show of hands, please?
Sorry, I wasn't. You were.
Right, so approved. I had hoped there'd only be one agenda item tonight as regards planning applications. Agenda item 5 is to consider planning application 242694M, which involves the demolition of an existing conservatory and the construction of double and single rear story rear extension with side extension over existing garage and internal modifications at 14 Cheltenham Close, Handforth. Do any members of the Planning Committee want to pass comment on this?
It looks kind of ordinary standard thing. I can't see anything in it that is outside planning regulations or anything that could really comment on.
Well, I've had a look at this, of course, and my feeling is that this is a rather elegant proposal. It's a detached property that backs onto the footpath that runs alongside the Sunfield development. It's an attractive design. No changes are proposed for the front elevation of the house. There's a very low likelihood that the extension will reduce the amenity of neighbours in Charrington Close. No comments from neighbours have been recorded. I see no reason why we shouldn't, as a committee, approve this application. Will members show their willingness to approve this? So that's, I think, unanimous. I said earlier that I had hoped that would be the only agenda item for tonight, but unfortunately there's an additional item which is a rather strange one. It's certainly a type of planning application that I've never come across before. It's on the Cheshires website. The reference number is 243179M, and the type of application is release from legal obligations, and it refers to the Sunfield development, which is off Coffis Way in Hampshire. The proposal is to modify a Section 106 agreement relating to the planning consent, which dates back to 2013, would you believe, a time when we had a different town clerk, and I think there was a one-man band operating as the Planning and Environment Committee. The proposal relates to the scheme of Plusden, which is a housing association who are planning to buy affordable housing units within the garden. Sorry, not within the garden. Yes, within the garden village.
Within the Sunfield site.
I'm getting confused here, aren't I? I'm not talking about the Sunfield site.
Talking about the garden village.
No, you're talking about the Sunfield site.
I am talking about the Sunfield site.
So
talking about the
this is
Sunfield site.
incorrect then,
The Sun-
Sunfield's garden village.
Yes. Sunfield site, yeah.
Yeah, it should be the Sunfield site. The particular interest of this housing association is the shared ownership units. Plusden wish to make these units more attractive to prospective purchasers who will be mortgagees. They wish to relax the conditions imposed on such mortgagees who might subsequently wish to sell their properties. In essence, providing certain conditions are met, the properties may then be offered for sale at full market price. Now, this proposal does not in any way reduce the number of affordable homes which will be offered on that site. It simply relates to the first sale of some of these shared ownership units. Quite frankly, I don't think this is really the business of this town council. And my recommendation to the committee is that, in fact, we don't offer any comment on this. But what other?
Can I make a comment?
Yes, sure.
When the S106 money was decided for the site at the end of Meriton Road, I attended a meeting which discussed the S106 money was brought up, and we wanted to change the agreement because none of the money from that site came to Hamforth, as you're well aware. And I wanted some money from there to come to Hamforth. It was made very clear to me that it was none of the business of the town council to get involved in S106 money. Although they did, I had my 3 minutes worth from my red light and what have you, but I was told in no uncertain terms that it was not the remit of the town council to get involved in S106 money. It was the ward councillors who could get involved. It was passed to Julie Smith, and that was the last I ever heard of it. I don't know what happened to it after that. I do know that it is incredibly difficult to get S106 agreements overturned. In that particular case, I think there were 8 signatories that had to be contacted. So I think I agree with you, Councillor Small, that this is not within our remit, and I don't think we should comment on it at all.
Would other members of the committee like to comment?
Totally agree. Totally agree with what, also.
So do I.
think we should get involved with it.
May I then propose that we, as a town council, offer no comment on this planning
Yeah.
application? All in favour? Thank you. That concludes our business for tonight, so the planning committee meeting has ended on time, fortunately, at about